Far beyond the tree line and the perpetual ice and snow, the knot in existence by hunting and fishing. Long ago, they left their homes in Siberia and wandered across into the Canadian Arctic. Their only business is the preservation of life in this bleak region. The gentle Eskimos, in their incessant struggle against their harsh, severe habitat, are a perfect example of adjustment to environment. These people of the Hudson's Bay country live chiefly on the fish and mammals of the sea. They hunt in their kayaks and little motorboats in the short summer and with dog sleds in the long winter months, when the sea becomes an endless field of ice. After the winter igloos have melted and the summer tents have been pitched, the open sea calls the hunters. In the brief weeks of summer, they use the little sealskin canoe called the kayak to skim over the water among the drifting ice floes in pursuit of seals and other sea animals. The Baffin Islander, like all Eskimo hunters, has ingenuity and invention. He pursues his game with caution and cleverness and usually with great success. He looks frail against the elements, yet he's master of his severe world and acknowledges no superior. Getting nearer and nearer, the hunter hears the strange grunting of his quarry, the seal. With the advent of the Hudson's Bay Company and other traders from the outside world, the Arctic hunter has learned the use of the telescope and the rifle. Even with the aid of the rifle, the harpoon is still necessary, for although the animal is killed by a white man's weapon, it must be harpooned or it would sink and be lost. The seal comes up to breathe for only a brief moment. The hunter must have great skill to get his prey. Nechulik the seal is the mainstay of life for these people. For generations, Eskimo man has harpooned seals for the family, food, and clothing. Without the seal, what would these Baffin Islanders do for parkas and boots? Sealskin covers their kayaks, too. The whips, so necessary for the dog teams in winter, are made from strips of sealskin. And the harpoons must have long cords of sealskin attached to the floats. A vitally important animal, the seal. As the summer days begin to shorten, preparations are made for the annual walrus hunt of the early fall. This sealskin will make a splendid float for the harpoon. For this purpose, the sealskin is not cut down the middle, but is carefully drawn over the body, with no openings except at head and feet. No matter how large or how small the rewards of the hunt, there is always the duty of sharing with the whole group. Communalism is the rule. Hoarding by the individual could not be encouraged in a land where there is so little to go around. Living next door to the North Pole, the Eskimos wander from hunting ground to hunting ground. And although hardship is their lot, they're always jovial, hospitable, and generous. even in periods of great want. The dogs rush in to fight over the tiny scraps that are left. The hunter Kusharak and his brothers have been very successful in trapping white foxes and can afford a 38-foot peterhead with sails and an auxiliary engine. The Iverlick people of Southampton Island are fortunate to live near islands where large walrus herds are found. They sail across the stormy Hudson's Bay to Coates Island, where they can get enough walrus in 1 week to supply the needs of their families for months to come. Everyone prepares for the hunt. The walrus may appear at any moment. The floats are inflated, the harpoon lines of sealskin are softened by chewing, and the harpoons are tested. The harpoon is the Eskimos' chief hunting weapon. It is constructed so that when the animal is hit, the harpoon head slips off and remains fixed in the wound, while the released shaft floats on the water, where it can be picked up. Ivik, walrus ahead. The rocky island bristles with hundreds of them. At first, faint roars are heard like an angry sea. Soon the peterhead is surrounded on all sides by walrus, roaring like angry elephants. Brown bodies slide and struggle over each other, fighting to gain the water. The big bull leader waits till the whole herd is in the water before he too slides in. Walrus hunting in Canadian waters is now forbidden to white men, for walrus is an essential food of the Eskimos. Long white tusks gleam in the sunlight and make excellent targets. A moment before, these creatures had been serenely sleeping, sunning themselves on the rocky islands and sandy beaches. The gray-brown beach, which had seemed deserted, comes sharply to life. The water is a churning mass of dark brown bodies, wild clippers, and flashing tusks. Everyone forgets the rocks and reefs that endanger the boat in the excitement of the hunt. Kusharak calmly wields the harpoon, its long line of sealskin streaming out over the water. The hunters work in pairs, one man with a rifle, the other with a harpoon. When the walrus is stopped by the rifle, it must be harpooned immediately before it sinks like a rock to the bottom of the sea. Time after time, the shaft strikes home. The wounded animal turns savagely, rearing high out of the water. The inflated sealskin floats, bobbing on the surface, mark the victims. After the excitement and din of the hunt, the herd heads out to sea, and at last the challenging roars and bellows of fear are silent. A gigantic old bull tried to save himself by climbing onto the rocks. His tough hide has patches of russet brown hair and countless smoothly healed scars from the battles of many mating seasons. The hardest job is the beaching and cutting up of the catch. The bulky animals are towed into shallow water waiting for the low tide. Then everyone must work frantically to finish cutting up the meat before the tide comes in and covers the bodies. The tusks are preserved for harpoon heads. The waves are crimson with blood, literally the Red Sea for a day. Kucherak and his brothers build a cairn of rocks and put away some of the meat to freeze for wintertime. Later they can return by dog sled and eat the frozen flesh. The remainder they carry back to their families on Southampton Island. They take great care of the cargo. Every pound means life itself for their wives and babies back home. The mounds of meat are put on board. Such a hunting ground. 7 walrus, all the small craft could carry. The hold gets a bit crowded, serving as parlor, kitchen, and bedroom for the crew of 6 Eskimos, and at the same time storage plant for 7 great walrus bodies. On the return journey, the men are in high spirits. Exuberant and happy after the tension and hard work of the past few hours, they enjoy the raw walrus meat and discuss the success of the hunt. Back in the settlement, the annual visit of the Nascope, the supply boat of the Hudson's Bay Company, has attracted Eskimos from far and near to trade for the next year's needs in ammunition, tea, and sugar. In the little encampment of tupeks, or skin tents, more than 50 people have been waiting for this moment, the return of the hunters with walrus meat. Schooner time is very short in Hudson's Bay, and soon the ice will return for long months of Arctic night. A tiny fire of rare and precious driftwood is built to stew the meat for the feast, although usually it's eaten raw. And their favorite morsel is the great heart of the animal. They are grateful for the bright, calm, cold weather that made the unpredictable Hudson's Bay peaceful for the brief few days necessary for a successful hunt. Eagerly, the women join in the feast on the return of the hunters. It's been many moons since they tasted walrus meat. Carving off chunk after chunk, they laugh and talk and eat all at once. Dressed in last winter's clothes, some of the women have parkas of caribou or sealskin. Others are wearing old calico dresses from the Hudson's Bay trading post. In the winter, everyone, both men and women, wears fur pants and sealskin parkas, an inner one with the fur next to the body, an outer one with the fur outside to shed the rain and snow. But it's summer now, and they wear the inner parka only as protection against the chilly winds. After the feasting comes singing and dancing. While the young men were away, old Eviloo and Billy Boy made a fine drum for the feast. The drum is made by stretching the skin of the caribou over a large narrow band of wood or whalebone. It is played by striking the wooden frame rather than by beating the skin drum head. One by one, the old men dance and sing. Full of good food, the Eskimos, singing and drumming and dancing, forget the struggles and sorrows of the long, harsh winter just past, and soon to return again.